So, how did you learn or hear about adoption? I'll start with Dad first.
I was volunteering at Buckhead Church in Atlanta, Georgia, and my co-leader at the time, a guy named John Harper, and his wife were in the process of adopting 2 boys at that time, and so became acquainted with them. We were spending a lot of time together, and just that was probably my first exposure to it.
I think when Dad knew the Harpers and they were starting to go through the fostering to adopt process was the first I'd really heard about it also. But then one day, kids at work had become my favorite patients. But then I met 2 of them that stole my heart. And we happened to go camping the next weekend with our friends, and our friend Courtney was working for an adoption agency at the time. Just kind of spent the weekend camping, kind of quizzing Courtney about what it looks like to actually for if we chose to foster and adopt. So that's kind of how it started on my end.
How did this relate to your church life?
Well, it's always easier to look back many years past the fact and kind of see how God was working. But I would say my church experience had been growing for a long, long time, and specifically in the church at that time, when we were starting to foster and adopt, there had been a lot of involvement and experiences that had really paved the way for me to be open in my life and in my heart to take on something like that. There was just a lot of things that God had allowed me to do in the church that had opened up my mind to even considering, I guess, such a big thing. And so being a part of the church, I think, to live open-handed is a goal. And we were open at that time, and it worked out great.
The church involvement for us was not only like the personal growth, because I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus till I was in my 20s. So then from my 20s to my 28, when I became a mom, I experienced a lot of personal growth because of the church and my relationship with Jesus. But as Dad was saying, like the whole time through that, we had no idea. Our small groups that we were in were some of the most supportive people as we went through the process and as you guys moved in. And then after we got approved and you guys moved in, we found out our church had started a ministry that we had no idea was even happening called Fostering Together. Provide the kids an amazing experience while we were getting our continuing education and stuff in, and just the networking we did with the other families that were there. So there was a lot going on that we didn't even know.
There's just some qualifications and some steps that you have to take. And what Katie's talking about is just, there was a ministry at the church that helped support foster homes. So a whole group of people, a whole community of people that were there to support the fostering community. So the church would help us with continuous education, provide meals. And so, to answer your question, the church was super supportive in that regard, and just to help shoulder some of the work. Many hands make light work, right? And it's important for the church to be a part of that, and our church was, fortunately, at that time.
Explain to us how the adoption process works and how it may have changed based on us living in Georgia and Indiana.
I can do that. I mean, just the process of getting approved in both states. The initial process is just going to an informational meeting, whether you're getting approved through the Department of Children and Family Services, or you're getting approved through a private agency, which we did both times, all 3 times. But you go to an information session just to learn more about the agency, You decide to move through that. You fill out a lot of paperwork, they ask a lot of questions about just like your experiences, what you've learned from those experiences, your support system. And then you have to go through a set of classes just about attaching to kiddos when they moved into your home, the do's and don'ts of fostering, how to help kids overcome some of the experiences they may have had, and just those types of classes. Once you're done with the classes, they start doing home visits where they come and see where you live and just interview you more to learn more about you. And then they submit everything to the state. And once the state says it's an approved foster family, then you start the matching process of getting matched with kiddos. Some of the differences, and it may have been differences from state to state, also things just change over time. We're pretty small, but one of the great things that happened in Georgia during our second round of fostering was they did, it was called reasonable and prudent parenting. And reasonable and prudent parenting changed the rules a lot to where you could ask people to babysit your foster kiddos the same as you would any biological kiddos.
In terms of timeline, also in Georgia, it took because there was a big weather event that year, and I mean the timeline to get set up can be 3 to 6 months, and in our case, the first setup as far as getting approved to be a foster home took almost right at a year.
What were some of the tougher challenges when getting approved to adopt kids?
Yeah, so in terms of just going through the process, the time involved, the time involved with the classes, a lot of it's in the evening. The materials can be super tough, not in terms of like completing it, but just getting through it. You're dealing with a government body, and there's a lot of turnover in terms of the people you're dealing with. That's part of it.
Thank you guys for being part of this. I really appreciate it. Thank you.